moving average on this. I don't know how well that shows up, but this is online, so it is a continuing downward trend. Goes up and down a little bit each day. The second thing, and a very important number here today, is the number of people that are admitted to the hospital yesterday, and that was 15 people were admitted. And so that number also continues to go down. The 7-day rolling average on that recently is somewhere in the 19 or so range. So the precautions that everyone has taken in terms of social distancing, in terms of wearing masks, washing your hands, all of those things is an important precaution that has resulted in improved numbers of COVID-19. Now, that said, in the city of St. Louis, we have had almost 2,000 cases and 131 people have died of COVID in the city of St. Louis. Statewide, we've had almost 800 people die of COVID, and that's out of close to 14,000 cases. So the path to reopening our economy and getting everyone back to work is a path right down the middle here between staying home, which is what we did for too long, 8 weeks here, and everything going full steam. The path to that is hand washing, wearing a mask, and social distancing, staying 6 feet apart. So that's good news that is improving. We don't know what will happen to these numbers after we see the results of lots of people being together in very large groups during the demonstrations, the protests. Some folks were wearing masks, some folks weren't, but certainly folks were not social distancing. So we'll see. I mean, fingers crossed that won't result in a big bump up. Now, the last time we talked was on Monday. And Monday afternoon, there was a peaceful protest, a nonviolent protest in the afternoon. Started out here in front of City Hall at about 3:30. And in fact, I went out to say hello to folks and to demonstrate that their grief and their anger are real and they are for good reason, and to honor the life of George Floyd, who, as you know, was killed in Minneapolis a week and 2 days ago. That was Monday afternoon. Monday evening at about 9 o'clock, that many people had gone home, but there were still a couple of hundred, 200 to 300 people that were in downtown, in front of the police department, walking around downtown. And that group apparently came to loot, to shoot, to burn, and attack law enforcement officers, because Monday night we had 4 law enforcement officers that were shot and injured, and we had one retired SLMPD captain, David Dorn, who was murdered as he was working at Lee's pawn shop. And today we mourn his death. It's a senseless death. And of course, police officers are very actively looking to try to solve that murder. David Dorn is, he retired from the police force about 17 years ago after a 38-year career. His wife still works for the police department. He had they had a foundation for kids to try to help a number of kids. Our fire department was involved with that. Everyone had tremendous respect for David Dorn, and this senseless, violent killing of him, murder of him, is really, it's heartbreaking, and hopefully we'll bring someone to justice on that. I think you know, while of course we understand the anger and the grief as a result of decades of difficulties, there is no justification for murdering David Dorn, or for shooting our 4 police officers, or for burning to the ground 2 businesses, the 7-Eleven and a Family Dollar, and half a dozen other fires that were smaller set around the city. Our firefighters, our fire trucks, our firefighters were fired on. Rocks, bottles, debris thrown at them, blocking their ability to get to fire by moving dumpsters in their way, just putting stuff in there. It was really a terrible night. And that's why yesterday morning, about I issued an executive order to institute a 9 p.m. curfew. Goes from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next morning, and it is on again tonight. We still have the curfew in effect. I expect we're going to have it in effect for a little while. I don't know how long. I have to wait and see, because the curfew says you can't be on the streets or the sidewalks of St. Louis after 9 p.m. unless you are going to and from work directly, unless you are a government employee performing your job, unless you have an emergency, you're going to the hospital getting medical treatment. So those are the primary exceptions to that. So everybody else has to be off the streets by 9 p.m. again tonight. Last night was a better night, a significantly better night than Monday night because of the curfew. It was also better because of the curfew and because law enforcement was fully in place. On Monday night, I do want to say a big thank you to all of our partners that were also out with us, with St. Louis Police Department on Monday night, and that includes the FBI, ATF, U.S. Marshals, St. Louis County. All of our federal partners were there and participating on Monday night. And they were also experiencing and the Highway Patrol. I'm sorry that I forgot that. The Highway Patrol's been here since last Saturday. Quite a few people have been here since last Saturday. The other thing is that we did call in the National Guard on Monday night. They have been in town and they were helpful. They also were helpful last night in protecting the police department. And so that was very helpful, and those partners are still in place. We had a 2-hour meeting this morning with those partners, talk about strategies and tactics in order to make sure that we are going to do, the collective we, all of our agencies and the city of St. Louis and the St. Louis Police Department, we are going to do everything in our power to keep our residents safe, our neighborhoods safe, our businesses safe. Of course, we protect people first, but we're also very interested in protecting property. There were over 50 property businesses that had their windows broken out or were looted on Monday night. Last night, there were still some businesses that also had damaged, windows broken out. So there were a number of arrests made. I think 38 arrests have been made in related to Monday nights and Monday and Tuesday nights activities. It's really important that we are able to make these arrests and that we are able to properly charge and hold the individuals who are accused of everything from trespassing to burglary, assault, property damage, stealing. Charges run the gamut. So that is very important. We are working now to be able to persuade the circuit attorney and judges to hold those individuals. because it's important not to send them right back out on the street. And I know that some of that has been happening, so we're continuing to work together. That is not something that's within the control of the mayor's office or frankly of the police department, who work extremely hard to make these arrests and deserve for people to be held so that they're not right back out there doing the same thing again tonight. So, let's see, 2 other quick things, a little bit unrelated, and we'll go to questions. One, someone asked me last week, how can they apply for a contact tracing job in our health department? I just want to point out that that is up on the city website. I wanted to get back to folks and let them know that. You can apply on the city website for contact tracing disease investigator position. It is, the actual name of the position is Public Health Program Representative, COVID-19 Virus Contact Tracing / Investigator. So you'll find that on our website. The other thing I wanted to say is that last Friday, and I talked about it last Friday, we presented a list of priorities to the Board of Aldermen and funding opportunities of the Board of Aldermen, which would use the money that we got through the CARES Act, that block grant money, ESG money, other federal grants. And so the Board of Aldermen, we hope that they're going to consider that quickly. One of the items in that was a small business grant fund, and this morning at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, that application went live on the city's website as well. So I'll tell you just a little bit about what it is. It is establish a small business grant fund for businesses that have been severely impacted by COVID-19 and the stay-at-home orders. It will also, 50% of the, it's $4 million. I don't think I said that. It's $4 million. And it will go to businesses that have fewer than 25 employees, obviously who are located within the city of St. Louis and are current on their taxes and their business licenses, and who have been significantly impacted by the stay-at-home order. So if you are a small business or know of a small business, that this grant is up to $5,000. So please apply online. And as soon as the Board of Aldermen approves this funding, we'll be able to get the money out to the folks that are awarded. So those are the things that are on my mind today. I bet there are some questions.
Few questions, Mayor. A couple of folks asking you to make perfectly clear whether the curfew is in effect again tonight and how many more nights it will be in effect.
Yes, to be perfectly clear, the curfew is still in effect tonight. I can't tell you for sure how long it will be in effect. Maybe the rest of this week, maybe through the weekend. We're going to make that decision day to day. But we'll make an announcement when the curfew is no longer in effect.
We have a lot of questions along the lines of the most recent one from Gregory, Mayor, is why are people who have been arrested related to the riots being released without facing any charges?
So Gregory, that is, it's really a question for the Circuit Attorney's Office. Circuit Attorney and the judges who set those bonds. So it is a frustrating, I don't know any of the specifics on a case-by-case basis, but it is certainly frustrating to me. It's frustrating to the police and probably to the public. So that isn't a decision that I get to make.
Why do you think that the curfew is effective?
So when you look at what happened on Monday night, when from literally 9 o'clock or thereabouts until 5 o'clock the next morning, there was, I happened to be in the real-time crime center until 4 in the morning and saw a lot of this video. There was burning and looting and shooting at law enforcement officers, throwing rocks and bricks at law enforcement officers. And our law enforcement, our police department exercised incredible restraint. But that number of people engaged in criminal activity is, even with the help of the National Guard, the FBI, is, we don't want to go through another night like that. So it's my opinion that when you ask folks, hey, please be off the streets after 9 o'clock, that those folks that aren't engaged in any sort of bad activity, which is 99.9% of the folks, they'll do that. And for folks that are still out there breaking windows, throwing Molotov cocktails into businesses, hurting folks and hurting property, those will be the folks that'll be out after 9 o'clock. And so it's my feeling that we need to curtail that, and we need to make it more possible for law enforcement to take the action that they need to take to arrest those folks.
A question from April, Mayor, about the 9 p.m. curfew and how it affects bars and restaurants. She works in the Grove area and wants to know if bars and restaurants need to close, and is, them coming and going from work around that time.
Well, if everyone is supposed to be off the streets by 9 o'clock, and unless they're coming or going from work, then I would think you probably aren't going to have any customers after 9. If you work there, you can still leave, clean up, leave, and go home after that time. But the businesses, unfortunately, in order to prevent further destruction, I think the businesses, the folks that are normally in the businesses, will not be there.
The question from Kingston, Mayor. Might the city consider adding clergy and ministers to those who are an exception to the curfew and allowed to be on the streets past 9?
Maybe. We have been in a lot of contact with clergy in the city of St. Louis, including the Clergy Coalition. We were on a call with them on Monday. We talked with them again yesterday, the leaders of that coalition. And there has not been a request from any of them, to me at least, to be able to be on the street after 9 o'clock. So it's something to be considered. But what we asked the Clergy Coalition to do, because there are members of the Clergy Coalition who are organizers of some of these protests, and we asked them to make it clear to their folks that they need to be home, stop being on the streets after 9 o'clock. They were willing to do that. So I think that we don't want to encourage people to be on the streets after 9.
Jessica has a question about the National Guard and their role in the city of St. Louis and how they're helping our law enforcement.
The National Guard is almost 100% to help us protect property. And that allows police officers to be on the street rather than trying to protect the police department. You saw what happened in Minneapolis, where the 3rd District Police Station in Minneapolis was burned. So we want to use our police officers on the street and allow the National Guard to help protect buildings and property.
Rachel has a question, Mayor, hoping you can provide an update to the public about the status of giving St. Louis police body cameras.
We need body cameras. We voted for body cameras. We have some body camera money in the budget for next year, $1.5 million, I think is the amount. And we need close to $5 million in the first year, and about, I think it was $4.5 million in the first year, and about $3.5 million in the following years to put in body cameras. Our budget is in shambles right now because of COVID, but nevertheless, we are still looking for ways to be able to to get body cameras. Body cameras and in-car cameras, some, related, but both of those. I think we need body cameras, and we have to figure out how to pay for them.
A few questions about the curfew relating to delivery drivers like DoorDash or Uber Eats. moving between the city and the county, are they allowed to deliver in the city?
I think the answer to that would be yes. I hadn't thought about that before now. They're at work. It says, cab drivers could be at work, so delivery drivers could be at work. So that's my thought about that. If it's a legitimate, delivery service, then yes.
A question about a concern about another wave of COVID-19 given large gatherings that have been seen in the city of St. Louis and all across the country. Are you concerned about it?
It's a big concern. I mentioned that earlier when I was talking about the COVID-19 numbers. It is a big concern. We saw what happened a week and a half ago at the Lake of the Ozarks. We had a whole lot of people at a pool bar, a couple of different pool bars, and it turned out a few days later that one of the individuals who was there is positive for COVID. Hopefully, the people that he was around or with would not be are not infected, but we don't know that yet. We just found that out. I don't know. It hasn't been a week ago yet. So yes, I am concerned about the spread of COVID-19 with the protests. Now, one of the things that we have done is we are providing masks to folks, to some of the organizers of these protests, so that people who don't have a mask, we can give them one. When I was out there on Monday, I was carrying some masks with me and offered masks to several people. I will say that at 3:30 in the afternoon, the vast majority of the people already had masks on, so that was encouraging. But for those that didn't, we offered them a mask, and we are providing masks to some of the organizers, because it's not just that affects all of us. So yes, it's concerning.
A couple of people asking if you could speak directly to a list of, I suppose, demands that a number of the protesters made downtown on Monday.
So, is there any specificity to that?
I think it was a list of, close the workhouse and defund the police. Those are the first two that are coming to mind. I don't remember what the other three are.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to defund the police. We always try to be as frugal as possible, but it's my opinion that we need a police department. We need a good police department, and one way to get that is to fund them adequately. So defunding the police is not part of my my plan. So,
Mayor, your thoughts on additional charges in Minneapolis in the death of George Floyd?
I just saw that. I guess it must have happened middle of the day today. I think most of us who watched that video were aghast at what happened there. And personally, I felt that the other officers who were there could have, should have intervened. So I'm happy to see additional, additional charges in that case.
I think we're about out of time, Mayor, if you want to wrap it up.
Good. Well, a lot going on. Let me just say thank you so much to everyone who is really participating in our city, participating in our world. I appreciate that you're on here. Even if you don't agree with me all the time, I think it's good to have this dialogue. And appreciate everybody who stayed home during the crisis. Let me say a huge thank you to our police department, our fire department, our EMS department, and our federal and state partners who were there with us on Monday night and again last night and today. These are very, very challenging circumstances, and so I want to say how much I appreciate our police department, fire department, EMS, and our partners, because we certainly appreciate the work that you do under exceedingly difficult circumstances. So thank you very much.